Welcome to another Wild Lambs adventure, where we use our bikes as an excuse to escape the hellscape that is the modern world, at least for a few days at a time. This trip's vaguely planned objective was to head north to the Murray River and follow alongside it to the mouth, and on those criteria it was a raging success. Others may judge the success differently, but let us know what you think. A little information on the Murray River for those who don't know. It's Australia's longest river, at 2,500 kilometres long, and forms most of the boundary between Victoria and New South Wales. Just after Mildura, where we'll be joining the Murray, Australia's third largest river, the Darling, flows into the Murray. This catchment area, known as the Murray-Darling Basin, is over 1 million square kilometres, or about 1/7 the whole size of Australia. For comparison, that's about 1.5 Texases, or the size of France and Spain put together.
That's a huge bitch.
We have 4 days to travel north to the river, travel the 800 or so k's to the mouth, down the coast a few hundred k's, then travel inland back home again. Day 1 we met at Jarrod's. We had a pre-trip meeting the night before, and Carl travelled across and slept at Jarrod's so we could get an early start, though it wasn't much of a surprise to Ben and myself when we rocked up at 8 a.m. and no one was even awake yet. So somewhere around 11, we said our goodbyes to the family and the Wild Lambs prostate, and then struggled with our intercoms as usual and gave up and left, with only Ben connected to Carl and Jarrod connected to me. First stop was 5 minutes down the road into Parrot for some fuel. Birthplace of our longest serving Prime Minister, Sir Robert Menzies, Parrot sits on the south end of Lake Hindmarsh, Victoria's largest freshwater lake, when it's full. But on to Rainbow up near the north of Lake Hindmarsh, and another stop because it's already lunchtime and we've made it 40 k's down the road, so we deserve a break. It was about this time we realised we better get our arse into gear, because the place we wanted to stay was still 400 k's away, and it'd be a race against the sun to get there. And kangaroo country is not the place you want to be riding around at dawn or dusk. From Rainbow is a short ride to Hopeton, which has this awesome little lake right on the edge of town called Lake Lascelles, which is weird because the next town we went through is called Lascelles, but is 25 k's from its namesake. And the fact that the pub in Jarrod is called Hopeton House leads me to think people from Hopeton don't know where they live.
Neil, you wouldn't happen to know how to get on the highway from here, would you?
Dude, I don't even know where the fuck I am right now.
The next couple of hours were spent riding north towards Mildura, going through towns such as Tempe, Oyen, and a little town called Speed.
Whatever you say, Mr. Billboard!
As we're on our way to Mildura, let me tell you a story I heard from some of my in-laws who lived there. In the 90s, the local doctor was so against The Simpsons, he got them to take it off the local TV station by threatening to leave.
Can you imagine a world without
The Simpsons?
Oh.
But we had to stop in Mildura for some food and fuel, still unsure if we'd make it to our preferred campsite for the night. We'd give it a go and see what happens. Even though our lack of intercom communication did cause some issues day 1, it gave us a chance to reflect and just enjoy the open flat lands of the Mallee without the constant four-way chat of our usual connection. We've been over 6 months since our last adventure together. Even though we'll hang out, we'll go for an hour ride here or there, sometimes you just need to go on a multi-day adventure. And I call these trips adventures because they are. They're not poorly planned because we're incapable. They're unplanned, so there's no pressure to be anywhere, letting us live in the moment. If we want to take longer to get somewhere, we'll go down a tangent, down a fun looking road, Or even sleep in until 10 and then have a 2-hour breakfast. And that's what we'll do. It's a profoundly freeing feeling that we don't get enough of in our day-to-day lives. And sometimes that backfires when we can't find any accommodation because everything's booked out. But that can be the price to pay to make sure you enjoy the journey and not just the destination. Around 6:30, we made it to the Overland Corner Hotel. It's a nice little pub. An awesome pub that backs onto a reserve on the river. And not only did they have some of the biggest schnitzels I've ever seen, but the publican came out and gave us some of their homemade shots as a nightcap before we went to bed. No, it's not. Ben's just got tiny little hands. No, it just doesn't trump. I didn't even finish it all. Ben did. Because he's fat. It's a fucking, yeah. This is camp.
9, whatever, 8:30. It's too late. Hey man.
You're fucked. You are absolutely fucked.
Ben's sleeping on the ground.
Don't recall me doing this, it's hard work.
Zoom in. Tenfold.
Get me grinding. That's the best fire. That's the tiny fire we go.
Close. And the wind's blowing it in that direction.
Oh, I've got a bit here. There's more.
Did I ever tell you the time I saw a dinosaur?
Sure, he's somewhere over there.
Ow.
What the fuck? The fuck was that?
I don't know, but it hit me head. My head hurt.
Look, man. What the hell is that?
I think it's a magpie.
That sign can't stop me because I can't read.
After packing up and getting all our communications sorted out, we figured we better go take a look at the river.
We'll reconnect, won't we?
Right, you go, Jarrod. Oh, there's where there.
I'm right here too.
Hello. 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 Is it worth coming down?
Not really.
That was totally worth it.
There's some pelicans.
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 Before setting off on the tarmac on what would be a challenging day's ride. First leg was an hour's ride west of Morgan, with what felt like 50km/h northerly winds. Not so much of an issue for the heavier bikes, but I had my hands full.
Fucking windy!
After some breakfast at the bakery, we headed to the river on what would be our first of many ferries, South Australia has 12 ferries along the Murray, all operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, free for the public to use. So of course we tried to take as many as we could.
Everywhere we look, there's river in the background. We're in the middle of the river.
Kaboom! Blam! Oh, excuse me again, dear.
I did. I can't hear my own bike because you fuckers are so loud.
The river takes a turn south from Morgan, giving us a nice tailwind for the next leg. It was still an issue though, as you can see from when we stopped to take a look over the cliffs that are formed by the river. It's been flowing here for thousands of years, in an otherwise extremely flat landscape, carving out 30-metre high cliffs on one side, while the other remains a floodplain. From there, it was a short hop over the bridge at Blanchetown, where we witnessed several other bikers being followed by a cop with flashing lights.
Ooh, glad that wasn't us.
We crossed the river hoping to head down the west side of the river, maximising our ferry taking opportunities. But after finding out the road was limestone, Carl vetoed that idea. I couldn't imagine why. So we turned around and headed over the bridge again, taking the east side of the river down to Purnong, where we took our second ferry of the trip. It was a bit of a boring road, but you know what they say, a bad day's riding is better than a good day's work. So, as we pulled up to the front of the ferry, this one not being so busy as the last, we stretched our legs and discussed ways to get some cool shots and different views.
We need to do a video where we drive through the put it on the ground and drive over it. Right. Yeah, after.
Well, we're going to have to find a road where it's not busy.
The answer was yes. As we watched the local drop bear awareness campaign go by, we grabbed ourselves a drink and a burger and watched a few minutes of the AFL Grand Final.
Basic burger for a basic bit.
We then escaped the grumpy and very unimpressed bikers who didn't say a word to us in the pub. We ventured onto our third ferry of the day, just around the corner. Quick stop in Murray Bridge for some fuel, and we thought it was probably a good time to book some accommodation. Plan was to get to Goolwa, which is about as close to the Murray mouth as you can get without staying on an island.
There's 2 cows in the back of that.
And the red Sussex.
So we booked the place online and made it about 1 minute down the road before Jarrod had some intercom trouble.
Oh my god! Oh, dick twist!
But lucky he did, because our accommodation had sent a message saying they couldn't take our booking and we had to book another place. But we wouldn't have seen that message for at least an hour if we didn't stop when we did.
Hello.
Hello.
Turns out Jarrod's intercom was just flat because he hadn't charged it the night before. Mine went flat soon after as well, so we had no choice but to blindly follow Carl, as he was the only one with a GPS. First was to cross Murray Bridge's Murray Bridge, then a 10-minute jaunt down the freeway before turning off and taking the last 50 k's to Goolwa. It's this last leg of the day when the rain started to set in, and probably the madness too. We ended up staying at a 3-bedroom house, essentially, at the Discovery Park Schoolwa, where we could put the bikes under the carport and freshen up before we head out for some tea.
Bit of luxury.
It's a nice joint.
It is. I'm fucked. Action shots.
First vegetables anyone's eaten all weekend. After that pub cleared out, we convinced ourselves to go to the nightclub down the street.
I'm not too old for this. You will not. We're not too old for this shit.
We're not too old for this shit.
We're not too old for this. Say it like you believe.
We're not too old for this shit.
Yeah.
We're not too old for this
I'm not
shit.
gonna buy a hemorrhoid cushion.
We're not too old for this shit.
Needless to say, we didn't make it more than 10 minutes inside.
I'm getting too old for this shit. Seriously, I could use a beer and a lie down.
So as Jarrod did his best Big Les impression, wearing his Big Les dress up, we made sure to charge all the cameras and intercoms, then hit the hay, as we had to be out by 10. Traditional breakfast, cigarette and a coffee. After getting ready and out of the accommodation with minutes to spare, we figured since we were no longer the night clubbing type, we must be the Sunday morning market type, and headed down to the foreshore for some breakfast and to take a look around.
They're pretty small. I think it was fairly obvious. It's BMW.
And despite the arsehole parking, the people here were some of the friendliest we found on this trip, with us hardly making it off the bikes before we got drawn into not one, but two conversations with other riders who happened to be walking by.
Copy.
So the next
Unspill it.
And breakfast pizza?
Yeah.
We got some gourmet breakfast right on the wharf, looking at the bridge that we'd be taking minutes later.
You want the rest of the champagne?
No, and it's pronounced champagne.
That bridge crossed over to Hindmarsh Island, but sits directly across from the point where all of the water from the Murray finally heads to the sea.
This is one of the views of all time.
It had only taken us 2.5 days, but we were finally able to see our plan of reaching the mouth of the Murray come to fruition.
Oh, hello there, little fella. Ba-doing.
I don't know how well this camera will catch everything, but... Point, Jarrod.
I'm pointing that way.
What way? That way.
And there it was, in all its underwhelming glory.
You know that's illegal.
Yeah,
Big man holding a little boy.
But we had places to be, so it was across the island again and follow the the Gubby's truck over the bridge and on our way to Wellington at the mouth of the lake. Having not seen a car for a while, we figured it would be a great time to get that shot Jarrod had suggested yesterday. Put the cameras in the middle of the road and ride past. So we put 2 cameras down, one facing forward, one facing backwards. Well, probably should have found a quieter road. One camera was still rolling, the other we spent the next half an hour looking for the SD card to view out.
That is very fucking lucky. Right there, can you not see it on the camera?
Mr. I didn't come on our last trip because I was getting eye surgery, spotted it just as we'd given up.
First one's for free, Kelvin. From now on, I charge for my eyes. It cost me $5
Money well spent. When we arrived in Wellington, we'd just missed the ferry by minutes, and this was by far the busiest one we had to catch. So we had to wait in line and for another round of back and forth with the ferry before we could hop on. From there, it was going to be a straight shot south to Kingston, but we had to take one last detour just so we could take our last ferry off the trip. As we looked out over the Coorong and then headed to Kingston with the setting sun over the ocean, we got some of that bittersweet feeling you get when you're on holidays and you know you're heading home tomorrow. The trip's not over, but it's overshadowed by the thought of heading back to the real world. You should share this video with your friends and family, so maybe one day we'll be able to do this full time. With the end of the grand tour, there's a gap in the market for a few idiots that go on adventures. But as we passed Larry the Lobster and grabbed some drinks from the drive-thru, we got to enjoy the sort of sunset you can only get when looking west out into the ocean. before pulling into my parents' place, heading to the pub for tea, and then going to bed nice and early, because it had been a long day. So, as Dad cooked some breakfast for everyone...
Oh, look at him going. Just like the boy.
And showed us his pedal electric bike, the wind was finally calm enough to take the drone out for a flight. But Jarrod's bike must have gotten jealous, because after the inevitable trouble with our intercoms, his bike didn't want to start. Now I'm sure someone out there can diagnose this issue from 10 seconds of footage here, but we spent nearly 2 hours taking it apart and concluded it was his stator. But by this time it was getting towards lunchtime, and Carl still had another 5 hours of travel on top of the 2 hours to get back to garage. So we said our goodbyes and he left on his way. We got the RAA out, the South Australian version of the RACV, and their recommendation was to tow it back home and get someone to look at it there. So we left it there, Jarrod having to come back the next weekend with a trailer and collect it, along with most of Ben's luggage, and he had to ride pillion passenger with Ben.
Riding on the back of another man's motorcycle can be a dangerous threat to one's manhood, commonly known as riding bitch. Here we have our two candidates.
Benjamin and Jarrod. Jarrod
will be taking the rear, or bitch position.
Benjamin
will be our rider, as we show you how to ride bitch. Here's a few quick tips. Never look your rider in the eye. Leave a good 10-centimeter gap between rider's back and passenger's balls. And most definitely, do not massage the rider.
So anyway, he's sitting here going, doo, 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 doo.
As Ben had never had a pillion passenger before, he may have forgot the extra weight on the bike, leading to this little skid here.
Jesus Christ.
But nothing else of interest really happened as we crossed the border, then headed through Carnarvon towards Nil, so let's have a little debrief of the trip. We succeeded in our attempt to follow the river to the mouth. We ended up taking 5 ferries, though we probably could have taken 2 more if we wanted to take more dirt roads. We had 4 pub meals and travelled just on 1200 k's. We could have gone further or done it quicker, but that's not really the point, is it? Now some lessons for next time. Don't trust anyone to be up and ready when we arrive. Book the accommodation before 3 PM the day of. Don't place cameras in the middle of the road unless you're certain nothing's coming. And have the correct settings on the camera so you don't have to blur the timestamp in the corner of every clip. And I know we should mention something about having your bike all serviced and ready for a big trip so it doesn't break down, but Jarrod had it serviced by professionals not 3 days before we left, so I don't know what more we could have done to prevent it. If you've made it this far into the video, I'm sorry. I hope someone will come and change the channel for you.
During his long recuperation, he taught himself to hear and feel pain again.
Or if you're here voluntarily.
What's wrong with you?
But seriously, I want to thank all the people we met along the way. Whether it's just for a wave or stopping to chat, and all the people that keep asking me when the next video is out. But most of all, I want to thank the other wild lamps for becoming video stars whether they like it or not. As for the future, plenty more larger, longer and harder adventures planned, so stay tuned.
Embrace the moment, let the child be scolded.